Today we are going to review how to round with decimals. Now, most of the rules that you already learned on rounding still apply. There's just a couple little short adjustments or a couple other things to keep in mind when you're rounding specifically with decimals. So first off, whenever I am working with decimals, I always think about using coins and money. So remember that these are fractions of a dollar. I can represent this 1 penny is 1/100th of a dollar. I could have a nickel. A nickel is going to be 5/100ths of a dollar. A quarter is going to represent 25/100ths of a dollar, and so on. So each of these is a decimal, and when I am rounding, I am basically going to be saying if I round up or down to the nearest dollar or the nearest whole number. So to get us started, we are going to look at a few examples. Whenever I am rounding, I am really just trying to imagine a number line. And here's an example where you can see on the number line between 12 and 13, if you break that down into pieces, you could see that counting over 12.6 or 12 6/10 is just simply going to be closer to 13 than all the way over here to 12. So I can see that I am closer. I will round up to 13. So whenever you can, try to imagine coins or a number line. Which of these is it going to be closer to? So we're going to do a couple practice just on a whiteboard here. We're going to start with, let's say I have $35.30. So I am going to round this off. Is it closer to $35 or is it closer to $36? Now, if I think of it like the number line, 35 is over here, 36 is over here. Where would 0.30 or 3/10, I could also call this 30/100ths, where would that fall on my number line? Well, if it helps, sketch out a quick little number line. I can see here, I go next door. Is it 5 or more? No, it is not. So if this is half, then I can see that this is where 0.3 is going to be. It is definitely not higher than 5, so this will round down. So that is about $35. All right, now we are going to take the same number and round it to different place values. So if we have the number 4.257 or 4 and 257 thousandths, I can see that this goes out 3 place values past the decimal point. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Now when I'm rounding, I can round it to any place value that I want. Some of these will be more useful than others, and if I'm only rounding it 1 place value over, it might not be very useful. But at least I want to know how to do it in case I need to. So to the nearest hundredth, I will count over. Here's my hundredths. Go next door. Is it 5 or more? Yes, it is. That means this number will increase by 1. So I have 4 and 2. It will go up. 6. Something to notice here is that I do not put any zeros in. If this were a whole number, I would need to put zeros into empty place values so that it maintained everything in the correct location. Here, I'm going to the nearest hundredth. This number goes to the nearest hundredth. If I put a 0 on the end, my answer now goes into the thousandths. It does not tell me to go to the thousandths, it says hundredths. So you do not need zeros into any place value beyond what you're rounding to. So now let's look at the next one, nearest tenth. So I find the tenths place, go next door, is it 5 or more? It's exactly 5. So that means this number will round up, and I will have 4 and 3 tenths. So 4 and 3 tenths. Again, you'll notice I don't have to add any zeros back there. If I round it to the nearest whole number, I am going to start at my place value of the units or ones place. Go next door, is it 5 or more? Nope. It's just going to stay the same. Sometimes people say round down and they think they have to make this number smaller. Nope, I'm just rounding so that all of this part gets cut off, and I will keep it the same here. So is it 5 or more? Nope. So this 4 is going to remain, and since it is to the nearest whole number, I need no decimal of any kind. So 4 and 257 thousandths rounds to 4 and 26 hundredths, 4 and 3 tenths, or just the number 4. So we are going to do one more set here, and then you can continue to work on your own. So let's say I have the number 2 and 992 thousandths. I'm going to start by rounding this to the nearest hundredth. I find the hundredths place, I go next door. Is it 5 or more? Nope, going to stay the same. So I recopy the 2 and 9. All of this stuff over here has to continue. It still is part of the number, don't forget. And here I get to the 9, it's not going to round up, it's going to stay 9. So it is about 2 and 99 hundredths. But what if I round it to the nearest tenths? So here I'm going to find the tenths place value, go next door, is it 5 or more? Yes, it definitely is, which means this needs to go up, but I'm at 9 already. Well, what's more than 9? 10. That means this number will have to become a 0. I will add my 1 over here, and it will end up being 3, because 1 plus 2 is 3. Decimal point is still there. However, I needed to round it to the nearest tenths place. That means I need to have something in the tenths place value to show that I did this correctly. So in this case, because I'm rounding to the nearest tenths place, I would actually keep that 0 in the tenths place. Now, if I'm going to the nearest whole number, I start here at the whole number, I go next door, is it 5 or more? Oh yeah, it definitely is. So this number is going to increase, and you will see the number 3. Now, if you think about this logically, which of these is the most useful rounding? If I round it to 2 and 99 hundredths, I basically have the same number. I've barely changed it at all. But if I round it to the nearest whole number of 3, that number is pretty easy to use. I can multiply, add, subtract, divide much more easily with 3 than 2 and 99 hundredths. So keep in mind when you are rounding that most often in the real world, you are going to round it to a number that's easy to work with. You don't necessarily have to be told what place value to round something to. So for example, I'm going to round a couple of these. If I have these two numbers, I can see that one of them goes way far out. However, if I say round these to the nearest whole number, they're still going to round to the same place. It does not matter how many numbers I have. It simply matters if I go next door, is it 5 or more? In this case, no. Both of these numbers are going to round simply to 2 if I round them to the nearest whole number. So don't let the number of place values intimidate or scare you. You are simply going to find the place value that you're rounding to, go next door, is it 5 or more? You don't even have to pay attention to anything past that place value. All right, so there you have a little review on rounding specific to decimals.